Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got 4 replays in 4 different tanks. That is going to be the WZ-120, the BZ-75, the Grom, and the TO-55. So if you do like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, we're continuing on with just showing some replays that are basically going to become obsolete by Tuesday, so we're just getting some of the good games out of the way. These would have all been standalone videos for these tanks because there was other replays to go alongside them, but these are some of the best replays that I had for these vehicles, and we just want to show them off, you know. What we're going to do is talk over some of the basic stats of the vehicles, so the the stock stats without any of the crew skills and equipment, the base stats and stuff that they have, and then generally talk about the replays. So we're starting with the WZ-120, which is actually a tank that I have 3 marked, and there was going to be a whole video, having 3 marked the tank, but naturally now that will be pointless because the way it plays is going to be slightly different because the gun's going to be derpier, that sort of thing, with the new crew and equipment system coming in on Tuesday. So with the WZ-120, it's got a nice top speed at 56 kilometers an hour, 600 horsepower engine, which is 16.13 horsepower per ton ratio. It gets to the top speed pretty easily. It's got good ground resistances, which don't really hold the tank back too badly. It's got 46 degrees a second on the track traverse, so the tank does turn very, very quickly on its tracks as well, which is definitely very nice for the vehicle. The turret rotation speed is 42 degrees a second, so the turret also turns pretty quick. It's a fairly mobile vehicle. It doesn't feel that lethargic, and it's definitely nice for that. It's got 390 meters of view range, which is good enough to spot for itself, especially when you set up with optics, stuff like that. You've got 122mm gun on this vehicle, which has 440 alpha, 258 penetration on the standard AP, 340 pen on the heat, and 68mm of penetration on the HE for 530 alpha, which is quite nice for going against some of the lightly armoured vehicles like artillery. You got 950 meters a second shell velocity on all 3 rounds as well, which is below average, so you do have to give a decent amount of lead at distance to be able to hit your targets, and it's part of what makes this gun feel a little bit derpy, and especially after the changes with the .38 accuracy, you're getting onto the more derpy end of the scale with .38 base accuracy, and it does like missing shots occasionally, which can be a bit frustrating naturally. With 2.7 second aim time, it does take a bit to get this gun fully aimed in as well. So you got 5 degrees of gun depression as well on this vehicle, which is only over the side. You get 3 degrees over the front, which can be very, very limiting. So if you want to be able to get the 5 degrees of gun depression, you have to aim over the side of this vehicle, like you're seeing here, to be able to get that max amount of gun depression, which 5 degrees of gun depression is still not very good and can be a bit of a pain indeed when fighting on ridgelines. Doesn't fully hold you back, as you're seeing here on Prokhorovka. It means you can still, if you find the right elevation, the right ridgeline, you can still get the gun down, get firing, and have a decent game. It just makes the tank pretty awkward with 5 degrees of gun depression. It really, really does, because, yeah, that gun depression can be a bit of pain. The armour on the vehicle as well is very, very nice on the turret front, but the general hull armour on the tank can let it down quite a bit. It's just like the TO-55, the Soviet Tier 9 medium tank, in the fact that it can side-scrape pretty well, though, with 18mm of side armour, and that can definitely be a nice thing for the WZ-120. You've got that little bit of flexibility where you can go behind rubble piles and stuff like that, bounce shots off of your turret front, but where you really need to, if you want to go brawling in a town, where you've got this heavy tanky gun on a medium tank, you can go slapping with the pretty good DPM it's got. Even after the changes, it will still have pretty good DPM for a Tier 9 medium tank. And you can go side scraping, bounce shots off your side, and then slap away. But as you can see, even with all the accuracy stuff, this gun can still be a bit derpy, but once you get it fully aimed, it's not too bad. But yeah, don't expect it to be hitting the most pixely shot of pixel shots, because that's not what this gun does. This gun is all about that raw power of the DPM and just consistently pushing out rounds, which again can be awkward and can be a bit frustrating with the vehicle, as it can be just, I say, a bit awkward with that 5 degrees of gun depression, but it used to be way worse. It used to be only 3 degrees or 3.5 degrees of gun depression all round, and it was just a super frustrating vehicle to play because it meant that any kind of ridgeline just destroyed your ability to do anything in it. But with the buff that they did to it to put it up to 5 degrees on the side, it made it a lot more manageable. It just meant you had to be mindful of how you were trying to get your gun depression and what type of ridgeline you were playing on. So as you've seen a couple of times in this replay, we've tried to get a shot at someone and we can't quite get the gun down, and then we've turned sideways on and the gun, you see, just go, doop. Yeah, you can get shot now. Thank you very much. So, yeah, you just got to be careful of that. So far here on prop, we are up to 4,001 damage, 839 assistance. We saw where one of the arty fired from. They fired from A2, so I'm pretty sure that that's where the other one is as well. The Ho-Ri one gets spotted by our tank destroyer going straight down the one line, so we're going to help that tank destroyer out, give him some assistance damage, and keep the shots flying into this Ho-Ri if we can. And this is the perfect opportunity for something like the WZ-120, because this is where that DPM really, really does shine for the vehicle, and you're able to just keep pushing those rounds out. So with the Ho-Ri shutting down the Ag Panther who rammed him, weirdly, sure, but he's going to stay spotted in time for us to be able to reload the shot there, to be able to shut down that Tier 9 Japanese tank destroyer. So the two arty are still alive. Again, we know exactly where they are. We end up finding the ISU-152K there, which I'm quite surprised he never spotted us the entire time we were firing. Pretty surprising indeed. But then this vehicle does have 364 meters of still concealment, and if you run, say, camouflage on the crew, and you run, say, the advanced concealment, even after the crew and equipment change, you still have a decent camouflage on this vehicle. Not fantastic, but still a decent camouflage to stay unspotted. And if you use the bush cover effectively, like we have been, you can have some pretty good times. So we get really unfortunate there. We should have killed the ISU-152K, but we low-rolled, meaning we didn't actually manage to kill the ISU-152K, and we didn't manage to secure our third kill of this game, but the SU-130 PM did. They've got one heavy tank and the two artillery. Again, we know where the two arty are. The two arty are down along the 2 line. The other heavy tank was the KV-3. When we poked through the bridge, we got detected, and that made me go, okay, I know where he is. He's somewhere in this region, but I can't see him. I don't want to get shut down, though. Having only 88 HP left, well, it's not a good time. We'll probably die. So we look for the cupola shot here on this KV-3, put the shot straight through, and again, using the bush cover, and especially against a Tier 7 heavy tank that's fairly blind, he can't actually see us there, and he gets shut down by the SU-130 PM. The Panther got shut down by the M12. We try and put a blind shot towards where that M12 was, but unfortunately don't actually land the shot there, because he got unspotted and he probably moved. The GW Tiger, we have absolutely no idea where they are, so we're going to load HE in the hope that we can possibly just pen this guy and get 530 HP of damage. And again, we don't know how much HP the Tiger Pig was, or the JW Tiger was. And there we go, 437. He was a 50-50 if we were going to kill him with AP, so loading HE was probably the right thing to do there, as that meant we guaranteed the kill and didn't leave it down to RNG. We've already seen what RNG can do, and against the IC-152K it went, lol, you could get the kill, but I'm not going to let you. So I'm going to low roll. And we basically negated that by firing HE. And with the M12 in a position where he's only splashable, we got the HE in, we fire it down range, secure the second kill on another artillery, finishing off that M12, securing 6.9k damage with 4 kills, the victory with the 1993 base XP. Ace tanker, the Dimitri's, the Confederate, the high caliber for that 1993 base XP. Really nice game there for the WZ-120, which is a bit of an awkward medium tank at Tier 9. It's one that I do enjoy these days after just getting that chance to have the gun depression on the vehicle. But yeah, it can still be a very awkward tech tree Tier 9 Chinese medium tank. But now we're on to the second replay, and this second replay is now with the Chinese Tier 10 tech tree heavy tank, the BZ-75, which is part of the rocket booster heavy tank line, and it's fairly topical really, since the BZ-72-1, which is the premium rocket booster heavy tank at Tier 10, came out the other day. And this is the BZ-75. This is one that, when I said about the tank itself, that the BZ-72-1 is a fairly well-balanced tank. It's fairly capable. It's bad in some situations, good in others. And for me, I personally preferred the Tech Tree one. And that's because the 650 Alpha is a little bit nicer. It chonks a bit more. The armor on this BZ-75 works exactly the same as the BZ-72-1, to be honest, where it's very hit and miss. Sometimes it's really nice, sometimes not at all. The gun handling is very, very similar. The extra little bit of shell velocity that this vehicle gets is nice as well, though. And I do like that extra 150 meters a second shell velocity it does get over the BZ-72-1. And yeah, generally I do prefer this one to that vehicle, like I said in the review. So it's one of those things that you're spending 500k free XP on the BZ-72-1. And again, free XP sales are always great for tanks because you can make your own discount on that. Some people might not have 20k free XP, some people might have 300k. So it depends how much you have as to what you're going to be spending to convert. So that's always good. But when you can get an alternative in the tech tree, like this, for free, and it's just as good, there isn't that much between the two, you may as well just go for the free tech tree version. And that's what we're doing with the BZ-75, because the BZ-75, like I say, I find it a lot of fun. I do enjoy this vehicle. Again, the gun sometimes can be a bit derpy, but this is what you expect, realistically, from a 152mm gun, right? It's still slow and sluggish. The only thing that really sets this tank apart from the BZ-72 is the fact that the mobility is just that bit more sluggish. The ground resistances are worse. The horsepower per ton is worse by 4, you know? But your top speed is still 30. And the top speed is still slow on this vehicle at 30 kilometers an hour, just like the BZ-72-1. But if you activate the rocket boosters, you go at 45 kilometers an hour easily. So, yeah. So the BZ-75 does have 30 kilometer an hour top speed, like I've said, 15 kilometer an hour reverse speed, 800 horsepower engine, which is 12.66 horsepower per ton ratio, which again, it struggles up to the top speed when you don't rocket boost. Your ground resistances are just fairly, well, they're not fairly, they are poor at 1.2 on firm, 1.6 on medium, and 2.7 on soft. You've got 30 degrees a second on the track traverse, which again is not slow, but it's not fast, and adds to the general lethargic feel of the vehicle, and especially with the turret traverse of 24 degrees a second, yeah, it does feel that little bit slower in terms of that turret traverse. 390 meters of view range means you can get the view range up to a decent level, spot for yourself well enough, which is good. You got 650 alpha on this 152mm gun, which is also a little bit nicer to have than the gun that you get on the BZ-72-1, because that is a 130mm gun, so the extra little bit in the caliber can be good for overmatching certain plates. You've got 258 penetration on the standard AP, with 319 penetration on the premium heat rounds, and 90mm of penetration on the HE for 840 alpha, which again are lovely for going through some of the lightly armoured vehicles. 1,150 meters a second shell velocity on the standard AP, 950 on the heat, and 860 on the HE. Again, so it's a lot slower when you load the heat or the HE, so bear that in mind. But that 1150 meters a second shell velocity is really nice for this kind of AP round. You've got an 18-second reload, which is a bit long indeed, but again, you'll knock it down a little bit with stuff like the gun rammer and that. 2.9-second aim time is a bit long, and you will feel that 2.9-second aim time because it does bloom out a fair bit, especially when you use the rocket boosters. 0.42 accuracy at 100 meters is also fairly derpy, and well, it's not fairly derpy, it is derpy accuracy, and obviously you will feel that a lot more after the crew and equipment changes because you're not going to be able to help the accuracy quite as much with steady aim and stuff like that. 8 degrees of gun depression makes you pretty damn flexible on a ridgeline, which is definitely nice for the BZ-75, and you're going to see that in action in this replay here on Erlenberg, is using that 8 degrees of gun depression to good effect, only limiting them to seeing your turret, and then bouncing a decent amount of shots, because the armour on this vehicle, like I say, is hit and miss just like the BZ-72-1, but generally is that little bit thicker, so the turret front is a lot nicer to use than the BZ-72-1, but you've got the big, easy-to-hit bar capillary effort, which makes people easy to hit. The upper plate generally works a lot better as well, but again, depending on the angle, because of the pint nose, people can go through it, and the lower plate is big and fat. The one bonus this tank does have compared to the BZ-72-1, though, is the fact that it doesn't get set on fire all the time, which is definitely nice, because the BZ-72-1 getting set on fire all the time is definitely pretty annoying, which is something you don't quite suffer as much on the BZ-75. So you're seeing here in this game on Erlenberg, we've managed to get 7,093 damage, 557 assistance damage. We're just about to try and shut down Mr. Waffle E100, which we do for our 4th kill of this game. And we've got 2 tanks directly in front of us, and I think, okay, you know what, I'm going to go for the rocket booster ram and then hit the EBR. So hello, Mr. Emil. Finish off the Emil with the ram. Can't quite turn the tank to be able to get the shot at the EBR, though, because naturally when you boost with the rocket boosters, you can't reverse, you only keep going forward, and your track traverse left and right does become a lot worse. And you have to press left on the D-pad, by the way, to activate those rocket boosters. But we finished with the victory, 5 kills, 7.3k damage, the 557 assistance damage, ace tank of the high caliber, with the 1632 base XP. A pretty nice game there for the BZ-75 showing it off, and I'd pick that one purely because of the BZ-72-1 came out this week, and it's that nice little comparison between the two. And let's say, for me personally, I do prefer the BZ-75. It's not a scratch on the BZ-72-1, for example. It's not saying that that tank's terrible, because it's not. It's fairly well balanced, which is always good when they release balanced tanks, right? But I prefer the tech tree one, which is always good as well. It's always good to prefer the tech tree one. But there you go. So we're on to the third replay. In this third replay, we're on to what is genuinely a very, very strong Tier 8 premium tank destroyer, and that is the Grom. The Grom's pretty mental, to be fair. The gun is derpy. It likes missing shots, left, right, and centre. But it is a very powerful gun, and it hits hard. The shell velocity is incredible. Its reload is great for the kind of alpha it's got. Its armour works well enough. It's not amazing armour, but it works well enough that you can bounce quite a few shots, and especially when you use the 7 degrees of gun depression, that can be great for the vehicle. It's kind of, when you're on a ridgeline, you accentuate the angles on the upper plate, and it bounces quite a bit, but the lower plate is pretty easy to pen. One of the downsides to the Grom is the 5 degrees of yaw limit, so you can only traverse the gun 5 degrees to the left, 5 degrees to the right. That is very limiting, and because of the bloom on the tank, as soon as you turn it, your aim circle becomes large, and you have to suffer the aim time a bit. So the Grom itself has 260 pen on the standard APCR rounds, 290 pen on the premium APCR rounds, and 80mm of penetration on the HE for 890 alpha on the HE, and 700 alpha on the standard APCR round and premium APCR round, which is hard. It's a hard-hitting gun. You got 1400 meters a second shell velocity on the standard APCR, which is fantastic. 1600 meters a second shell velocity on the premium APCR, which is incredible, which is why you see these Groms generally firing pure premium APCR, because the velocity is just that much better, as well as the fact that you got 290 pen. There's no real point to the standard APCR, which is a little bit sad, but yeah. The velocity is fantastic, and it means you don't have to give much lead at distance to be able to hit any targets, because it just flies. The instant you pull the trigger, it's there. You know, it's one of those. It is a beautiful thing indeed. The gun itself has a 16.8 second reload, which again, for the kind of gun it is with that kind of alpha, it reloads pretty quickly. 2.7 second aim time means it takes a wee bit to get it fully aimed in, and you will feel that because it does bloom out a fair bit. 0.4 accuracy at 100 meters is also pretty inaccurate again. It doesn't feel it that bad, and this is one of those tanks that will feel it a bit more come the crew and equipment changes, because at the minute you can get the accuracy at 100 meters down to 0.32 accuracy, which is extremely accurate, whereas you're not going to be able to get it anywhere near that after crew and equipment changes, so it's going to be more closer to that 0.4 accuracy, which is part of the balancing factor of the Grom, is the fact that the gun's supposed to be derpy, but at the minute it's not derpy, but after the crew and equipment changes, it will be derpier and it will miss a lot more shots. So yeah, that'll be something that's a bit better for fighting against the tanks. At the minute, the gun, like I say, is pretty accurate. It still likes derping shots, even with the really good accuracy, but that's RNG more than anything. You've got 7 degrees of gun depression, which means, again, you are decently flexible on ridgeline. It's not fantastic gun depression, but it's enough that you can accentuate your armor and make it so that it's pretty good at bouncing shots, and especially when you're top tiering against some of the tier 9s, it's actually pretty good armor. 350 meters of view range is blind though, and it will struggle to spot targets at distance. And the other thing that is actually going to impact this tank quite a bit is the fact that it's got 375 meters of still concealment. Now, by running either the camo net, come the new crew and equipment system, or running the advanced concealment, because you can only run one of those, they don't stack. If you run the advanced concealment with the camo perk and that, you're still going to get decent camo, but not incredible camo on the Grom, because at the minute you can get it down to 241 meters of still concealment, which again, this tank is not supposed to have that great a concealment, because it's supposed to be that brawling heavy tank where it bounces shots off its armor and it slaps with this gun. It's a bit more up close and personal tank, but at the minute you can play it as that snipey, stealthy tank destroyer really easily, because you can spec the concealment down really low and get the gun to be really accurate. So it's going to definitely change the playstyle of the Grom, because you're going to have to play more up close and personal, and you're going to get spotted a lot easier after the crew and equipment changes. Again, adding the balancing features to the actual tank that it should have had all along, but there you go. But yeah, so the gun is derpy. Like I say, it's blind with 350 meters of view range, but if you run optics and the crew skills and stuff, you'll still get a decent amount of view range and still be able to spot for yourself. So, as you can see here with this game, we've managed to get 5.4k damage with 5 kills. Just couldn't quite get the shot into the charioteer there. We see the slapjack get a shot into the top of his turret, but that guy's AFK, so we're just actually going to ignore him. I thought the charioteer, and this is the annoying one, he ends up managing to drop off a cliff. The reason the gun wiggle there is because I actually thought that charioteer was just going to YOLO off the cliff and go after the TD, so I just ignored him and put a shot into the top of the slapjack. And I could have secured my top gun with a kill into the charioteer, but there we go, and that's what I wanted more than anything in this world, but hey-ho. So I stopped focusing on the Dragon because I thought, yeah, he's not going to last past the Emil, and in fact, yeah, he didn't. We aimed the shot into the upper plate of the Slapjack, finishing him off, putting us up to 7,300 damage with the 5 kills, 237 assistance damage, and a really nice game there for the Grom, which is just an incredibly strong tank destroyer because it can do absolutely everything. And this is one of those that will be impacted by the crew and equipment changes quite a bit because it's going to force the change in playstyle to it to actually have the balancing features of the fact that it's not going to have as good a camo anymore, and the gun handling is going to be a lot worse. But you've still got the good armor to go up close and personal brawl and slap with this gun. It's one of those. So, yeah, it's going to have more balancing factors to it, which is the way it should have always been. But there we go. And we're on to the fourth and final replay of this video. And we're here with the Soviet Tier 9 premium medium tank, the TO-55, which is, you know, relatively new to the game. It only came out really recently for free XP or for gold. And it's the unskinned version of the Senjutsu, but moved up to Tier 9 for general better balancing reasons, because the Senjutsu is pretty mental as a Tier 8 medium tank. And yeah, the TO-55 is just a pretty average Tier 9 medium tank. It's not anything special. It's very, very, very similar to the T-55A, the German Tier 9 premium medium tank, in all but that it's got a slightly worse reload, but you've got a flamethrower on the multi-weapon system instead, which I think you'll take this slightly less DPM for the flamethrower extra added tick damage you can get, because it's one of those things that means that the damage is always constantly racking up with this vehicle, because you have the flexibility to use the main gun, which is really good, or really accurate anyway, to do damage, and then while you're reloading, especially at close brawly range, you can then use the flamethrower to keep damage ticking over. Now, you do also lose penetration on the standard round compared to the T-55A as well, but to be honest, the trade's probably worth it, and you've still got that fantastic 330 heat pen round. So the TO-55 does have 221 pen on the standard AP, 330 pen on the heat round, and 50mm of penetration on the HE, with 1,070 meters a second shell velocity on the standard AP, and 895 meters a second shell velocity on the premium heat and HE, which is slightly below, well, it is below average in terms of the velocity on the heat and the HE. The AP is just slightly above average. It means you do generally have to give a decent amount of lead at distance to be able to hit your targets. With the gun as well, you do have a 7.9 second base reload, which is decent. You'll, again, when you get all your crew skills and equipment on the tank, you get it down to a decent level, and even after the crew skills and equipment change, you still will. You got 2-second aim time, which is absolutely fantastic. It means this gun aims in really, really quickly. With 0.35 accuracy at 100 meters, it's in the middle of accuracy. It's one of those that it's going to be slightly more derpy than most guns, but also it's still pretty accurate, and once you get the food on there, Born Leader, etc., your general accuracy is actually pretty good anyway. You got 5 degrees of gun depression, which is poor, but that's just Soviet type gun depression. It means you're very, very inflexible and can be a bit of a pain on a ridgeline, so you've got to pick and choose the right spot to be able to get the gun down on target. 395 meters of view range is enough to be able to spot for yourself as well pretty easily. 46 degrees a second on the turret traverse is very, very fast, and with a track traverse of 54 degrees a second, it does mean it turns slower than the tracks, but the track traverse is also absolutely fantastic. 20.07 horsepower per ton ratio, because you've got a 760 horsepower engine, and you've got a 55 km/h top speed, meaning you're an extremely mobile vehicle. You hit top speed really, really easily, and you've got a 23 km/h reverse speed as well, which is absolutely fantastic. And with 0.7 on soft, 0.8 on medium, and 1.4 on firm terrain resistance base, that's just absolutely amazing terrain resistance, and generally does not hold the tank back whatsoever. And yeah, it's a really, really mobile vehicle, and it's one of those that it's just a mobile platform for this 100mm gun to be able to consistently push out rounds. Now, 221 pen on the standard AP is a bit of a letdown for sure, but 330 heat pen just goes through most other things. And then you've got the multi-weapon system, which you hold the A button down, or X button for PlayStation, and you'll be able to switch to the flamethrower, and you'll be able to just consistently roll out damage with that flamethrower as well. But like I say, the damage that thing can do is just fairly consistent. It's just fairly consistent at pushing out damage. As you can see so far, we're up to 4.4k damage with 5.6k assistance damage. And we're just trying to pick up the kill. We should have just used the flamethrower there, because we could have definitely picked up the kill on that guy, but there we go. We're just going to use the flamethrower now on the VK-4502B. I was trying not to take a hit from him, but we actually take a hit there from the FV-225, who turned around to shoot me and then basically died for it. We get the shot into the cupola of the VK-4502B to finish him off, securing our 4th kill of this game. And this is just what the T-55A is good at. It's good at keeping that damage rolling. You can get good assistance damage because you've got good spotting, or good view range, I should say, as well as the good mobility, putting yourself in good position to spot out. You can get good assistance damage games, and generally the damage also keeps rolling with this vehicle. It's just a pretty solid, well-balanced, average tier 9 medium tank, to be fair, just like the T-55A is. So we finished that game with the Ace Tanker, the high caliber, with the 2,159 base XP. A really nice game there for the TO-55, which, like I say, is just a pretty average tier 9 medium tank. It's pretty well-balanced, and can be a lot of fun. But obviously, depends on how you pick it up, because if it's for the free XP, that was a great thing to be able to pick up for, as you can make your own discount. Gold, probably a little bit too expensive, but there we go. But that's all those replays. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!